It's about to be working. All right, roll with it.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Saturday Morning Mastermind. I'm playing host for this book that we're covering right now, called Whatever Arises, Love That, A Revolution That Begins With You by Matt Kahn. Here's a picture of the book. I'm here with members of the Mindset Mastery Collective, Samantha, Angel, Karen, and Catherine. I'll give y'all a second to introduce yourselves, and then we'll jump in where we left off.
Good morning. It's Samantha in Indianapolis.
I'm Angel down here in South Carolina.
I guess I didn't create any harm because I didn't have my mute button off. I'm Karen Lowe in Mesa, Arizona. I bumble along trying to somewhere.
Hello, I'm Catherine Clement, and I'll be reading the part of the chapter that we're covering today. And I believe we're starting at entering the garden. Is that correct? Yeah. Okay.
Oh, okay. I gotta figure out. I gotta find that. Hang on. Okay, go ahead. Oh, here's Jason.
All right. Oh, come on and introduce yourself, Jason. Doesn't look like he's quite on yet. He's coming on though. We'll give him just a minute. Or he might just be hanging out listening today. I'll go ahead and start reading. Entering the garden. While vibrational codependency inundated my life, there were recurring mystical experiences that quickly turned my childhood into a mystery that I was determined to solve. I remember being around a group of adults when I happened to say something that stunned everyone into silence. While they seemed amazed by the wisdom that seemed to effortlessly flow out of me, I had no idea what I was saying. When I was asked how I knew what I had said, my response was, "It's like whispering into my own self's ear." While the group of adults marveled at my 7-year-old response, I had absolutely no idea why they were so astounded, nor did I even know the meaning of the words that I spoke. This became the first of many instances in which I would say things that amazed others without having a single clue to what I was talking about. Like many naturally intuitive children, I wasn't mature enough to understand the human condition or to acknowledge the depth of insight that came forth from my young self. During that time, I was mostly attracted to any subject matter which created an energetic shift. I remember stumbling upon books on UFOs and ESP. When the energy within me began to shift just by scanning each page, I was instantly fascinated with every subject of paranormal phenomena. For some unexplainable reason, the idea of moving objects with your mind, flying, or even time travel seemed oddly familiar to me. While many kids were interested in becoming star athletes on the football field or basketball field, I was like a different type of athlete in training. My sport was tapping into the unlimited power of the mind. I remember being so fascinated with the mystery of psychic superpowers. It wasn't as if I was determined to prove any of those abilities were real. I already knew in my heart how real they were and just felt soothed by the expansion of energy that I felt when I experienced them. If anything, the doubt and skepticism many people had towards these topics made me feel like I was living on the wrong planet. Some of my more pivotal mystical experiences occurred when I was 10 years old. I remember a little brick wall dividing my friend's house from his neighbor's property. When I walked by the wall, something caught my attention and stopped me mid-step. I just stared at the wall. In my mind, I heard a voice say, I am not the wall. I am not this body. I am the space between it. At such a young age, I had no idea what any of this meant. I felt as if I would know its meaning sometime in the future, but at the time, I didn't have the maturity or awareness to acknowledge the wisdom that had been given to me. Shortly after that insight, one of my most life-changing experiences occurred in what I thought was a dream. As it began, I immediately found myself in the most beautiful garden I had ever seen. The colors were so vivid. It was as if various hues of light were pouring out in every direction. It was absolutely surreal and the most loved I had ever felt, especially since love wasn't an emotion I distinctly remember in my earlier years. I knew the relief of peace that came whenever energy expanded, but I never really felt love or even noticed a lack of it. From as far back as I can remember, the predominant feeling I experienced most often was vastness. It felt like an emptiness that was neither full nor lacking anything at all. But now, as I looked around the garden, I instantly felt at home and was filled with an undeniable sense of feeling safe and held. In front of me, I could see a field of waist-high flowers. As I began moving through the thick grasses, I suddenly realized I was also simultaneously hovering above them. I didn't know how I was having two experiences at once, or even how I was able to float above things. It didn't seem to matter since the intensity of love held me in such a magnificently gentle way. As I floated toward the middle of the field, I noticed an illuminated being hovering above them as well. He was about 20 feet in front of me. From my vantage point, he appeared to be a man with dark hair and a beard, wearing a white robe that covered his feet. For some reason, he felt very familiar and wise to me. He motioned me towards him, and I just froze. Moments later, I began spontaneously floating in his direction. As I got nearly 5 feet from him, I could see his eyes, but I couldn't see any pupils. It was as though a river of white light poured out of his eyes. This reminded me of scary movies I had seen in which people roll their eyes up into their head. Why was I thinking of such a thing during this experience? Just having that thought interrupted the flow of the moment. I remember falling through the field of flowers, which then led to falling through the sky until I crashed back into my body. It was only when I landed back in my body that I realized I had left it. My breathing was heavy and I was freezing cold while dripping with sweat. As I attempted to process this experience, I noticed the same man who had hovered above the field of flowers. This time, he was standing in my doorway in an outline of chalky white energy. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw this being motion me toward him once again. As I looked directly at him, he suddenly disappeared. This experience left me with more questions than answers. Even so, the feeling of love from the garden was so immense that it remains just as strong and noticeable at the core of my being all these years, after all these years. I remember talking with my parents about this experience the day after it occurred, and I noticed their interest deepening with every vivid detail. Once I finished, my father recalled a story in which he had nearly the same experience during an afternoon meditation approximately 30 years earlier. He remembered leaving his body, entering a garden, hovering above a beautiful field of flowers, and encountering a being in a white robe, just as I had. This helped me acknowledge a profound sense of interconnection at play that doesn't need to be understood in order to be explored. From this point forward, I was filled with an all-encompassing sense of awe and wonder as the love I felt in the garden seemed to guide my every breath. Guided by love. Later that day, another incredible experience occurred as I walked to a friend's house. All of a sudden, I noticed in my peripheral vision more illuminated beings outlined in white chalky energy walking on both sides of me. As I saw this, an instinct told me that they were spirit guides who would escort me through every stage of my life. For some reason, it wasn't strange or exciting, just oddly familiar. I knew they were safe and trustworthy since they emanated the same vibration of love I remember feeling in the garden. That became the first time I had a vividly deep knowing without understanding how I suddenly knew it. As I entered my friend's house, I saw a framed painting hanging on the wall of his living room. I remember saying, "I know him." My friend responded, "Yeah, Matt, we all know him. That's Jesus." "I met him last night," I said with absolute certainty. My friend just glared at me. "Come on, you didn't meet Jesus." I remember feeling such an irrefutable knowing that I had met Jesus, while not understanding why meeting him seemed so inappropriate or unfathomable. Had I broken a cardinal rule in the universe? Did this mean I couldn't celebrate Hanukkah anymore? Despite those questions, there was a palpable knowing that many answers would be revealed in the upcoming chapters of my life. All I had to do was stay tuned as the guides lovingly escorted me with every step. It wasn't as if they were there to give me every answer. Instead, they eased my uncertainties by helping me notice a flow of perfection that was woven throughout all experiences, no matter the outcome they produced. That allowed me to embrace each moment on an existential level while playing the role of a character who often seemed anything but okay with the circumstances at hand. After a while, I forgot the guides were even there, as the majority of my attention was consumed by adolescence. Very shortly after my 18th birthday, the guides began speaking to me. I remember the first time it happened. It was like a booming voice emanating from within the center of my body. I wasn't frightened because it carried the vibration of love I remembered experiencing in the garden so many years before. The first thing I heard was a voice saying, "You're not who you think you are." For some reason, "Who the heck are you?" was my immediate response. From that point forward, I began daily dialogues with my spirit guides while sitting in my bedroom. They introduced themselves as ascended masters and archangels. Each one came with a distinct color to symbolize their vibrational frequency, as well as mental pictures to confirm whom I was speaking with. As unique as each archangel and ascended master seemed to be, they all transmitted such loving energy. This made it safe for me to openly engage. I also began to notice these dialogues were helping to attune my intuitive abilities into a heightened state of refinement. It was as if these conversations were assisting me in elevating my antenna and adjusting the dial to receive the clearest signal. Whenever I spoke to an archangel or an ascended master, I received a symbolic vision of their message. Excuse me. At the same time, I heard their insights as clearly as if I was speaking to someone on the phone. While that occurred, I also felt sensations in my body that provided information, much like how a computer downloads new files. This helped me understand that I had the intuitive abilities of seeing, hearing, and feeling, which seemed to work together in a harmonious sense of spontaneous knowing. I had a sense that I was being prepared for something, but I didn't know what. The answer wasn't immediately obvious, but it began revealing itself in the most random of places. Out of nowhere, I would receive a sudden download of information and be guided to walk up to someone I'd never met and deliver a message. Every time it happened, I was so afraid of being judged or rejected, along with the fear of offering a message that they may not understand. I remember thinking, what if I'm just crazy and don't even know it? Thankfully, I never hesitated to deliver a message since the inspiration was so strong. I felt as though I was about to have a heart attack if I didn't share the message with them. That helped me get over the fear of rejection, as well as my belief in self-doubt. Each time it became easier to do so, and every message provided powerful moments of transformation. From my perspective, it was like stepping up to the plate with a bat in your hand and not knowing what to do with it. Then all of a sudden, a ball is tossed your way. Before you can even think, your body swings the bat and hits the ball out of the park. While everyone cheers your accomplishment, you remain baffled at the fact that this seemed to work perfectly each time, even without knowing how it works or what you're even doing to make it happen. From there, I was guided into spiritual bookstores to deliver more spontaneous messages. I remember catching the eye of the store owner who asked me if I could offer intuitive readings. The feeling in my body answered with a resounding yes. So apparently, this is what I was supposed to do. People sat down with me, and for half a second, I'd have absolutely no idea what to do. Then, like clockwork, it all began to flow. While delivering each message freed me from feeling as though I was about to have a heart attack, I still had no idea what was going on. Since it felt so good to be in the flow of energy and everyone got so much out of it, I just went along for the ride. Within 2 months, I was a featured reader at psych fairs with a regular schedule of clients. To my amazement, the majority of people who wanted my help were other readers and healers. It was as if they couldn't figure out how I channeled the messages in such a clear and compelling way. While everyone else seemed astounded, I was terrified most of the time. I was just following the guidance I received and allowing the feeling of love to carry me along. Initially, I was delivering messages to individuals, but it quickly expanded into teachings that I offered to groups. It was as if any assembly of people created a group soul where I was intuitively guided to offer teachings that resonated in the lives of everyone in attendance. At that point, I was starting to get more comfortable in that role. I was trusting in the fact that something I could not explain was happening on a regular basis to uplift the lives of everyone I encountered. We'll stop there.
I think
Yeah, I
that's
was
a
gonna.
good stopping point. Yeah. Go ahead, Dan.
Oh no, I was gonna say I concur. I was gonna say the same thing. So, but I'll just say there's a lot there. I think that we can go over and go through. And any thoughts from any of you?
Yeah, I think it's interesting, in the beginning of this section where he's talking about floating over the field and seeing the person in the white robes. And I don't want to say I've necessarily had that same spontaneous experience, but what I find interesting is when I go into a meditation where I feel like I just need comfort, I always want to be in a nature-like space. And when I was younger, I always kind of pictured myself sitting on the lap of Jesus and like with his arms around me, like he was the father figure, because of course when I was younger that's what I was taught. And it's just interesting to me also how so many teachings from so many different religious backgrounds kind of give us this same idea that there's this all-encompassing love coming from somewhere else. And when a lot of spiritualists like Matt seem to have communications, it's always with these otherworldly beings, and it's just fascinating to me. So I kind of wonder though, I'm like, why don't we all have these very obvious experiences instead of these kind of like random things where we're like, I don't know if that's an experience or that's just my imagination kind of thing happening, or how I don't know. I don't remember having these types of experiences when I was younger. I remember having like a feeling of a knowing sometimes when I was in my older teens and early 20s. I would feel like I would just know stuff, but it wouldn't be like specific things. It would be more of like a feeling versus I don't know. Sometimes it would be a very specific things. I don't know. And then it just kind of faded over years. And I don't know if it was just because I was so busy in my life, I wasn't paying attention to it. And so I didn't really, what's the word for it? Focus on it to learn more about it. What am I trying to say? I guess.
Embody it.
I don't know. I can't think of the right word.
Well,
nurture that ability, I guess, is that I wasn't focused, I was focused on other things. And so instead of nurturing what I felt like, my intuitiveness, I just kind of ignored it for a while. But yeah, it was nothing like what he's talking about. I mean, not even remotely close. It was, maybe a feeling here or there. Or I had one time where I literally thought that I heard my grandmother call my name, but that's all that it was. And it sounded like it was in my ear, like she was right there, like she had stepped up behind me, and she was still alive at the time, which was a weird experience. So, and when I called her, that after I heard that, she didn't act like she had been thinking about me or anything. So, I like called her up and I was like, is everything okay? And she's like, yeah, it's fine. Why do you ask? I'm like, just had a feeling I should call you, Anyway.
I was going to say, yeah, I don't think I've really had any real, well, I can't say that. I know one time as a kid, there was something I dreamed or something, and I still am not sure what it was but, and I've never spoken this to anybody, never told anybody this, but it was as if it was for me and for me to know and to give me something for moving forward, but I never really grabbed a hold of it, I guess, so to speak, because as a kid, I thought, okay, this is weird. I don't know. I don't understand it. But I believe it was very real. And I believe that it was something for me it was meant for me to grab a hold and take it. And well, maybe I have in a way, because I still have never forgotten it. I've just never talked about it, never shared it, because I really did not want people to think I was crazy or weird or whatever. But now here, it's like, oh, well, maybe there was more to that. And maybe had I paid attention a little bit more, instead of being like everybody else, oh no, that's not real or it can't happen, let it play or, think about it more. And the only other time I think I know for a fact, I believe it, I have no doubts about it, but it was when I was first laid off from my first let go of a job ever, where I was actually laid off and had to go and fight and get unemployment and stuff and everything. When I was so scared and going through, but also just a few months prior to that, I was going through trying to get a modification loan on my home and going through all that and the unknowing and the fear and the stress of going through that, because I didn't know if I was going to be in my house the next day or not, if they send me, whatever. Ultimately I got that, and I'm still in the house that I love. But I actually literally was in my bed crying, and I believe that in Jesus and God and everything. All I could sit there and I was crying because I was so afraid of losing my home. I didn't feel I had anywhere to go, even though I could have gone to my brother or my mom's, but that was not an option I wanted. And all I could say was Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. And I was having a hard time going to sleep, but I finally was able to fall asleep somehow. I think in releasing and grabbing hold of that part, I was able to fall asleep. But during the night, I smelled this is the only way, I smelled the color purple. I don't know how, what, why, or what. I just, in my head, that's what came through in my spirit and in my feeling. But it gave me peace. And after that moment, I stopped having my nights. I stopped having the stress. I stopped having the cold sweats and waking up in the middle of the night in sheer fear and panic attacks. Then I would have them during the day in small, because of what I was going through. It stopped, and I knew that somehow everything was going to work out and eventually play out however it played out. But it took away that fear and gave me peace. But to this day, I think if I were to And I believe that God and his presence and that was in my room that night, literally in my room. I didn't see him, but that color, that color just is so impressed in my mind and there. And I've only told a few people about that. Now I'm here, I'm spilling it on. But I really believe in my faith and in my belief that God or Christ was there in some form or way or shape, let me know that I was okay and that, don't stress and just trust and keep moving forward. And I would so love to have that feeling again, because it's a feeling I can't really fully describe or get across. And I know people will probably think I'm weird when I say, I smelled the cup, because it felt royal, it felt regal, it felt loving, it just was. Like I said, I would love to be able to go back and go through that experience in another way, shape, or form to understand it more.
That's so interesting, Dan. I mean, that we can have these experiences and something that might sound really strange to another person, and it just makes absolute perfect sense to us. And I've heard people say things like that before and just not understood them, and always wondered, what exactly does that mean? I mean, I smelled a color. It's fascinating to me. I think it's interesting. Our minds are such amazing. I mean, our whole everything is it's so amazing, and how we can interpret something that seems to make no sense at all, and yet it makes perfect sense. It's the that there's the two sides to the coin, right? The one side seems completely bonkers, and the other side makes absolute perfect sense. And I feel like that's just the way of our experience in this human form is there. Yeah, I don't, it just doesn't make any sense and makes perfect sense at the same time. So,
Well, I think it, for me, because this is, I was trying to find it in the book, and this is the part that was that hit me, where when Catherine read, she said, from in the entering the garden section, it said, some of my more pivotal mystical experiences occurred when I was 10 years old. I remember a little brick wall dividing my friend's house from his neighbor's property. When I walked by the wall, something caught my attention and stopped me in mid-step. I just stared at the wall. In my mind, I heard a voice say, I am not the wall. I am not this body. I am the space between it. And that really caught my attention, because in going through and thinking a little bit about what I went through, and then some of the things that you were talking about, it's kind of resonated with me that in essence we aren't we are our bodies, but we aren't our bodies, because we are within this. We are vibrational beings that give off energy, just like I think we talked about before, where when you walk in a room and you can sense that, oh, there's a weird energy in this room, or it's not a good energy or something like that. And you're kind of off balance a little, because it's not, you're not resonating on that same frequency. And I think it was interesting that I am not the wall. And it made me think, I am this body, but I am so much more than just this body. There's more to it. And, going into what I was talking about earlier about smelling that color, who knows what the full potential, what our whole being and essence can really grab it in, be a part of, or grab a part of, or feel, or exist in, because I guess maybe we shut ourselves down or limit it because of fear, going back to fear, fear being the biggest thing that keeps us from really ever sharing or experiencing. And I'll be honest, really, I've really never, like sharing that one instance as a kid, because I'm still, even now as an adult, when I think about, there's so much I don't understand about that moment of what I pictured or what I felt or what I don't even know exactly what it was. And then when I had the moment where when I was sleeping, I know I smelled that color. I think we get too afraid, and we get too, afraid of the rest of the world because they don't acknowledge some of the things that they've experienced or felt, because they don't want to be different from everybody else. So we just don't really go there. But I believe our minds and our bodies are so much more able and capable of things than we give credit.
Yeah, I can absolutely relate to Matt. And it's funny, Samantha, because I have had a lot of experiences, more than I can count, and I still question. So even when even when you do get those, okay, this is undeniable, you still have the question in your mind, am I just crazy and don't know it? That, like, I so resonate with that statement. I almost cracked up laughing when I read that part because you just, things happen in your life that are so bizarre. It's like, okay, did that really happen? And that it happened, or you experienced it, but it's still so beyond the realm of, quote, normalcy or whatever that the world tries to put on us. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Thank God for my Aunt Phyllis, because she was that. She wasn't a cat lady, but she was the cat lady in the family that lived by herself in an old haunted house, and never judged me for any of the things that I told her when I would tell other people in my family of my experiences, which I rarely did because of the responses I got. It was much different from her. I could tell her, and she believed me. They just thought it was my imagination or whatever, and which made me feel it. And I think that happens a lot to kids. I think kids are having real experiences. I mean, the dreams, I don't distinctly remember being in a field of flowers, but yes, I have met Jesus in an out of body experience. And it wasn't somebody just like him. He's obviously Jewish and celebrates Hanukkah, and he had not been raised with Jesus. I had been raised with Jesus, but because I had rejected Christianity, I didn't feel like Jesus would talk to me, like I wasn't a Christian. So when these things just come out of the blue, they don't make sense at the time. And if you tell an adult or something, they're normally going to tell you, oh, that's your imaginary friend, honey. You're sitting there having a full-blown conversation with your spirit guide, and your parents are telling you, oh, she's got an imaginary friend. Isn't that cute? And you're talking with Archangel Michael, man. Like, it's or you're traveling out of body every night to go learn lessons about how to save the earth, so and we can prove that it's not imagination because of remote viewing, which you guys know I'm very interested in, and I'm going to start studying much more seriously, because it's something that anybody can learn to do. It does not take intuitive skills. Anybody can learn to do remote viewing. And once you recognize that and really absorb that, then you have to recognize that this is, it is all perfection, and it is foreseeable, and it is mutable, and we have access to all of it, and you can be trained how to do it. Even if you never had any kind of intuitive experience in your life. In fact, sometimes people who are quite intuitive have a bit of trouble following the directions on how to do it, but anybody can be taught to do it. So that just goes to show that all that information, past, present, and future, is out there and available for us to access at any moment that we choose to do so. So when little kids are telling these bizarre stories, it's not that yeah, we have imaginations and we can make stuff up, but sometimes they're truly connecting because they're not so inundated with and brain controlled, mind controlled into thinking that it's all just their imagination. Like they're really tapping into the reality of things.
Yeah, what if it's not actually imagination like we think it is, or we've been taught that it is that it's just accessing some other reality or dimension of information that we have access to and have always had access to, and we all just have been taught that it's not real, that it's just in our head. It's very, very fascinating. But I did, in the story when he was talking about telling his dad about that experience, and then his dad being completely open to hearing it and then sharing an experience that he had as well. And I know that can have a huge impact on how you grow and how you experience things and how you respond to the experiences that you have. Is if you're having a parent that's telling you no, no, that's just your imagination or whatever, or making fun of you because you have an imaginary friend or whatever, you're obviously going to grow up in a different way than somebody who has very supportive people in their lives. Like if you hadn't had your aunt, you had absolutely nobody, and everybody was telling you were wrong and you were crazy or whatever, then how would that have come out in your life? How would that have shown up? And obviously for you, it would be different because you're having so much more vivid experiences that you are, even if you're questioning them, they're still happening. Whereas like for me, I don't know how people would have responded to me, to be honest, because I never had those experiences. But if I'd have had them and had supportive parents, then maybe it would have been different. I don't know. We have so much impact on our children. We just don't even realize it. And I wonder though, these generations that are the young children that are in our lives right now, with such a much more open world, or a lot of people are more open to these ideas and experiences, is that I guess that I feel like, as going forward into our future, we're going to have so many more children that are raised in an open way versus just trying to shut them down all the time. And, we may have a lot more of these young people come up in the world that have experiences and who are sharing them, and who it becomes the norm versus, you're a weirdo or whatever, so it definitely interesting going forward in the future.
What is pretty interesting is that is kind of already happening, or at least with, kind of part of like my generation, is I'm noticing a lot more people, around the world and around the country are being more open about religion and spirituality and things of that nature. And they're being more open about educating about it and talking about it and sharing all of these experiences. And the people viewing it are being so accepting and so just loving. And it's amazing. And then the kids that are coming from our generation too are just I hear teachers talking, you know, the generations, just these kids are nicer. They don't tolerate any bullshit. And they're so open. Everything is just everybody just seems to be nice, or it just seems to be like nicer and open about differences and different religions. And, you know, they're asking questions, like genuine questions, and they want to learn. It's already happening, which is amazing. Yeah, it's great. I've definitely noticed a lot more openness about spirituality and talking and things. It's great. So, I mean, it is happening. Everybody's being more open, and it seems like we're all getting more connected and kind of raising our vibration as a whole, or as you know, as a whole world, I guess. You know, or at least we're trying to uplift the vibration of everything. Everybody's, you know, coming. I'm seeing a lot more of the people talking about the oneness and the connection that we actually all have. And they all of them, I keep going back to the oneness. It's like, we just need to, we're all one, guys, you know. So I don't know, I'm losing my train of thought. But yeah, it's already happening, and it's amazing. Great. So that's all I have to say for right now.
Yeah, I'll jump out real quick. That's really nice to hear, Angel. That's really nice to hear. There was a time when I thought also that there was you know, kind of an opening up. And here, let me hop out here. Let me scare you guys. The man behind the curtain. Yeah, I mean, there's an opening, or you know, kind of an openness happening. That's really fantastic. I often had hoped that the internet itself would be kind of a catalyst of people that would spurn people to look towards developing themselves and their minds and possibilities of humanity, really, you know. But I knew that it kind of would go in all kinds of different directions, and there would be sort of growing pains along the way. I didn't really think about the idea of so much misinformation and people wanting to confuse people so much with all that. But you know, so that's, I guess, part of the growing pains. But yeah, I also often thought when I was younger and in college and before that, that you know, when I was just kind of aware of like psychic abilities and things like that, that I was just thought like how great it would be if the world, or if, you know, or the communities were more attuned and more focused on helping helping everyone early on try to recognize that within themselves, you know, at a super early age, you know, try to nurture, like you said, and cultivate that in our young ones, so we grow up with you know, learning about that possibility and that, and not being afraid of it, and that, and developing that potential, and maybe even like testing for it, and help, and for those that wanted to pursue that, and giving them a channel to do that, and then maybe those that weren't that into it, and, you know, have the traditional ways. But I always thought that that would be, you know, like even if it was just trying new ways to unlock the mind's potential in our kids, and you know, you would have to be open to all of these metaphysical possibilities, you know, like being able to have readings, and the you know, seeing those things and those feelings, and you know, smelling colors, and and whatnot, but being open to that so that we don't shut that down and we don't think, oh, well, we're being different, and then that's a bad thing because we can see something and they can't, or vice versa. But I always thought that would be great. And I hope that at some point we're able to do that and open that up. Like even like in the public schools, have that be something that is a track that people can decide, they want to take that and open up to that a little bit more. But great to hear that you're experiencing that people are being nice out there and being open. That's wonderful. Glad to hear it. Thank you.
I hadn't really thought about thinking about all this chaos and insanity that's going on as growing pains, but that's a good point. And I mean, and I think that we have these kind of things happen in our history where you have individuals that are trying to share something that maybe hadn't been shared before, or show something different that hadn't been shown before, and then you have all of the people that try and suppress that person or that group of people, or any number of things. And right now, I mean, like Angel was saying, there's a lot of people that are pushing towards this oneness, and we see a lot of spiritualists, and we see a lot of psychics and people with abilities that are coming forward and sharing these things. And yet, instead of that being the focus of our media, the media wants to stir up the crap, and they're just trying to keep us not focused on that. They're trying to keep us focused on all the stuff that's so horrible rather than the other way around, and yet we're still pushing forward, and even if they try and silence us, we're still pushing forward, and people are still moving that direction. And so I'm happy about that. I'm happy that more and more people are feeling comfortable sharing their experiences and sharing, because I think that there's a lot of people that are having the experiences and afraid to say anything because they're worried about what their friends are going to say, or they're worried about what anyone might say. And so. And I think that's one of the bonuses of the internet and social media, is the fact that we can connect with people who would never have been able to connect with otherwise, and that is opening up a whole dimension, like life experience of. I mean, this is this online ability to communicate with other people. 100 years ago would have, well, I mean, not even that long ago, 50 years ago would have been like, well, I mean, it was impossible, but people would say, oh no, that's crazy to think that you could do that at some point in the future. But yet here we are, we're all sitting here together on this video meeting that was a technology that wasn't even heard of, it wasn't even possible, 50 years ago. So something that would be like, magic. It's like magic, right? More and more things keep popping up that are like magic, but yet it's just something we didn't know before, and now we do. And so moving forward into the future, I have to just remember, I don't watch the news. That's one thing, is that I don't watch the news specifically for the fact that they just want to stir up sensationalistic insanity and make everybody crazy and turn people against each other. But I have to remember that when that stuff does pop up in my experiences, I just have to send it love. Like what you were saying, Jason, it's growing pains. It's our humanity having its growing pains, or labor pains even, of something even more amazing that's going to be born into in the future. And it's the resistance that's all of this is resistance to change. And even though it may seem like specific events and specific whatever, I think as a whole, it's just resistance, it's fear. And hopefully we will be able to move past this chaos and into something so much better. I mean, I feel like, we go through these things, in history. There's always the time, that there's always some kind of insanity that's happening that we have to go through to experience, and then it transforms into something else. And that's the path that we're really on, and we don't even realize it. We think the world's all going to hell, but in reality, it's the growing pains of turning into something so much more wonderful. So we just need to send it love and send all those people who are struggling in that love, and and trust that it's all going to be okay. It's all going to be okay.
Well, I think it kind of goes back to a lot of what people say is you have to go through the bad first and get through all that to know and get to the other side to what is good, and see and finally see the good that comes out of it. So I think, that's something to think about and look at, because it seems like the big great steps in moving forward in advancement in all areas of humanity have first gone through major upheavals and dark times in some ways to get to the better side, and not always the more perfect side, but maybe better and more moving forward on that. Just the best way I can put it, I guess, is maybe just like we're on our own journeys of where we're discovering, growing, and learning more about ourselves as we go through our life. Maybe that's part of overall with like how I view it with God, and how God is working us towards, that ultimate oneness, back in connection with me, back into connection with God, and all that. And for others, it might be the infinite intelligence, the universe, or whatever. But I think, the vibrations, because there are vibrations that do go up and down, and there are dips and there are highs and stuff, even within that, I think. And that might be part of how this all is connected.
Yeah, that's really interesting, and let's not forget the fact that there's so many other things out there that are affecting our feelings. Like you had mentioned that one time we were speaking, Samantha, about our diet and our hormones, or just from our diet affecting our hormones and giving us weird feelings that then we interpret as maybe something that's negative, or something that's a mental thing, when it's really just our diet, or or it's a space that we're standing over, right? That the energies are there, or I just read something the other night in regards to it was science with um, these neutron stars and black holes really far off away colliding and sending magnetic waves through the universe that we're now detecting. And apparently we started to detect in like 2015, and we've been detecting more of them. They've been testing one of Einstein's theories about the way that time and space and magnetics work, and they've had this experiment set up for like ever, and they're getting these readings that indicate that we're being hit by these very tiny readings, but because it's just from such a far away place that but when these black holes or these neutron stars collide, it's just such a huge burst of energy, and they say that it sets off ripples in all directions, like waves kind of against the shore, and that these can actually change space-time. So you felt a ripple then you may have been in tune with that, so, but all there's so much out there. So I mean, it would be good for us to be better in tune with, what is what is real, what is just a thought or whisper in our head, or what is something that is something we can use. I would especially in the rare instances that I experience like deja vu from a dream or some sort of a metaphysical experience, I would love to be able to interpretate it better. I would love for a guide to be there to just explain it to me rather than have like, have it be some sort of a like was one of those movies where
Cryptic, so cryptic.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, so like with just different images and things, and then you're supposed to figure out what's going to go on and what's going to happen, and should I worry, should I be
Right? Like, stop talking to me in riddles.
oh, come on, I just tell it to me, tell it to me straight. But then if I'm sure if
Now, you did not choose easy level on the game, dear. You did not choose easy level.
Oh, I did.
You did.
There's no one gonna guide me through the gauntlet. Okay. I guess you're right. Yeah.
Oh, dang, that's the problem. I didn't choose easy level.
Well, I'll throw this out. Maybe some of us feel that we're, and I hate using it this way, but maybe we feel like we're so adept or able to handle the other, levels because of, like, going back to the book, that we pre-planned a lot of this before we ever really physically came here. In those books we said that. So maybe because of that, we said, oh, well, we can handle this and we'll just dial it up rather than, I don't know, but I also think that's part of this journey, learning and growing and for lack of a better way of saying it, finding what our fortitude is, I guess, in a way of, how much are we open to, how much can we deal with, how much can we handle, and even deep down, can I really handle it? Those type of things. And so that's kind of my last little bit. We're working on almost 15 minutes over the hour, and we've been about an hour now since we went live. So I'll throw out any last thoughts or ideas from anybody as we try and wrap this up.
I just want to say real quick that, if you have one memory or one experience or one even imagination of something beautiful and loving, then you always have that. And you, just like you can bring back the taste of a lemon to your mouth, you can bring back any memory like that. So you always have that. That is a gift from God right there, that you can use at any moment that you need it. I love you guys.
That's great. Love you guys too. Thanks, Catherine. Thanks, Dan, and thanks, Samantha. Great to see you, Angela. Karen. Nice to hear from you, Lori.
I'm sorry. I was just going to say that thought of taste of lemon in my mouth. I'm sorry. My sister used to just take lemons and suck on them in her mouth, and she would do it sometimes because she knew it made me and my mouth would just go blah, blah. And so that thought when you said that just made my mouth, and picturing her doing that just not something I consider pleasant. So it left me with that kind of picture in my mouth. So sorry about that, but but going back to what you're saying, pictures can be very strong and very indelible, and sometimes just the mention of something like that can really just put a uneasy feeling in you. Put it that way.
Fuck her up.
Yeah, and that. So
I
I'll
totally
leave
like
off with
was
that.
tasting lemon too there for a second. But hey, well, but you can use ice cream. But I love that. I love what Catherine said there, because that's, we can kind of always go back to that, whatever that loving experience is, draw that back into our minds and into our hearts, and then kind of go from there, maybe, I think that's that kind of idea I get out of that. But thanks again.
Yeah, but ice cream won't work because there's too many different flavors.
Oh, well, you pick your own. You pick the
Lemon
flavor
is
you
just,
like.
yeah.
Yeah, it's been interesting. They've been advertising, Chick-fil-A's been advertising their peppermint milkshake recently. And one of the parts of the commercial, the woman compares it to like when you get the taste of the peppermint, it's like having snowflakes on your tongue. And who we can relate to that, right? I mean, that's what they do those things for in marketing and whatnot. It's because we can relate to them. So if we can do that, then yeah, we can definitely step into our own mind and feel an experience that we've felt before. And it may not feel exactly the same, but it's so very similar. It's like when you first have an experience, it's the most intense, right? But then you can go back and relive that experience again, and it's not intense, but it's still it's just as pleasant, right? Or not if it's lemon, like you're talking about, Dan. But we get to choose. We can go into those memories and have those experiences again and again. Catherine, I'm glad you brought up the remote viewing thing. When I get to my time off this winter, I want to try and go back through that program that you shared before. And because I started it and never had time to finish it. So I'll be really interested in doing that. But yeah, no, it's been a great chat, guys.
Her book is called Boundless, and it's on sale on Kindle for 99 cents right now. And that teaches the first phase of the controlled remote viewing. Now there's different kinds of remote viewing, but the one she teaches is the one that the military used. And there's very precise steps that anyone can learn how to do it. And that's the first book. And I think there'll be 6 books altogether, but it's 99 cents right now. So go grab it.
Oh yeah, Amazon. Cool. What's her name, so I can let author name?
My memory. I will put a link or put her name in the chat or something on the Facebook page and under the video and whatnot, if I can't remember it before we get off of here, but I can look it up really quick if somebody else talks for a minute.
I will actually talk. Right, cool. So I will sorry, Samantha, go ahead. Do you have something?
No, I was just going to say, yeah, that would be great. And then Jason, if you have a link to that article you were mentioning about the stars colliding, I'd love to read that one too.
Yeah. I will say same here on that one, Jason, because I saw something that they said that they predicted, and I can't even remember. It caught my eye, and I thought, oh, that would be interesting to read when I get a free moment. Something metaphysical or something like that, and they're saying they're seeing that what was predicted 30 years ago actually starting to happen now, but it was not like it was more metaphysical or something to that. I wish I could find that and go from there, because that really made me interesting that somebody predicted it in the physics world or something like that, and they're seeing it still. But I was just going to say, in wrapping up, please follow us at Mindset Mastery Collective on Facebook. You can ask to join the group there, or there are new procedures and stuff that are over there, so you can go check that out and how to be a part of the group. Please like and share. Also, YouTube channel, Mindset Mastery Collective, where you can get see the videos of everything we've gone through over the years, the different books and stuff like that. Please like and share that. And if you want to be on the Saturday Morning Mastermind with us here as a panelist, get a hold of one of us and we can help get you set up for that. So with always putting out a lot of love, love all you guys, and thanks for joining us on the Saturday Morning Mastermind.